What's going on, people? Welcome to the Morning View. Welcome to United View. Hope you guys are doing well. Top of the morning to you. Happy 21st of March. What's happening, man? International break is upon us, but the news hasn't stopped. Normally, let's be honest, we get to international break time and we're like, when's club football coming back? But because Kobbie's got the call up, it's just made it that bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So there's so much going on. Kobbie's been talking to the media, has been talking to Simon Peach, probably asked about his availability.
Team news. Yeah. Kobbie, team news. Yes. What are you talking about?
I started.
Force about it.
So big up Simon Peach, but big up to Kobbie Mainoo, who's been in the England camp. There's been loads of pictures. Starboy, he's chilling with Saka. And these are the things that I wanted to see. That's why I did want him to go England training, just to be with the big boys. But we're going to talk about that because there's so much positivity surrounding Kobbie. And like Owen made a good point before we went live, it isn't all positive. Hated, adored, never ignored, guys. That's all I'm going to say on that. We're going to get into the deep dive, Kobbie, because some people are jealous. Yeah, some people are jealous. Bruno as well spiced things up in the international break so far. I don't know if he was an interview or he was in the presser.
Yeah, I think it was an interview. With a Portuguese outlet and spoke about, everything. Spoke about his future with Man United, spoke about talking to Ineos, spoke about criticisms of him as well. He spoke about everything, so we'll be getting into that as well.
So Bruno speaks out, so we're going to get into that. And Casemiro injury confusion. What is going on? And we didn't want to lead with that story. One, because, it's positive right now. It feels good. Let's celebrate Kobbie. Let's celebrate a bit. It's been poor this season, but we're not going to not talk about what's out there as well. And there is some Casemiro injury confusion and some statements that have been put out or stuff in the media that's there. So we'll talk about that as well, because it definitely is Casemiro confusion. And just on social media, Anthony Martial was spotted out in town on Tuesday, according to The Sun.
Oh, I hate this stuff. I've seen a couple of these today already. When
Anthony was out with his girlfriend. News.
Yeah.
Remember Eric Ten Hag went to a restaurant with his wife the other week.
Yeah, and he got his beard shaved in a barber's as well.
Honestly,
God, I hate that stuff.
I hate that. Honestly, it's the worst.
Yeah.
But something we don't hate is Kobbie Mainoo.
Yes, Kobbie Mainoo. Yes, as you mentioned.
What's been going on?
He's been doing quite a few interviews, which is interesting because, of course, we haven't heard a ton from him. Very young guy, hasn't done a ton of interviews. But now he's been called up to the England senior team. He did a bunch of interviews yesterday with a variety of outlets. This one from BBC Sport. It was on 5 Live. It was with their major BBC Sport journalists as well. And he was asked about the aims for the end of the season. Is your aim to get into that Euro squad? And he said, quote,
Simon Peach.
Yeah, Simon Peachy. He said, I think that's the goal for the end of the season, to get into that squad, the Euro 2024 squad. But obviously, I've got to focus on club football in the meantime, and hopefully that will figure itself out. He continued on by talking about his call-up. He said, I was shocked and happy. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, a pretty mad couple of days, to say the least. He also said, it's been a mad couple of days. Sunday was a great day and a great win. Then to get called up to the under-21s, I was excited. And then realizing I was with the first team, it was amazing. It's been a whirlwind of emotions. Now, he also spoke about his injury he picked up in pre-season, of course. He said, I thought I was going to hit the ground running at the start of the season, but obviously I got injured against Real Madrid. It required surgery, a little setback, but it didn't hold me back too much, which is actually, you forget.
Very interesting.
He underwent surgery. And
I didn't know that bit. Did you know that bit, that he had surgery at that time for that?
I think it was reported at the time. But United with operations and that, they keep it very, very close, don't they? So it's a bit like the Malacia thing. People to this day said, we've not heard anything about Malacia where we have, but it just kind of goes away very quickly. And finally, he also spoke about adapting to the Premier League. He said, quote, I had to adapt quickly to the Premier League. Obviously, it's a very demanding physically and also mentally. So it's been tough, but I feel like I found my feet a bit now and I'm enjoying it. He's enjoying it, Flex. I would say if I was talking to Kobbie, I'd say you've more than found your feet, mate. I think you're very, very comfortable. I think you found your feet.
Taking everyone else's feet.
Yeah. In the first 5 minutes when you were at Goodison Park for your first start, you found your feet pretty quickly. And I mean, I don't know if you've seen this, Flex. We were chatting about this before we went live, that it has his sort of inclusion now in the senior squad for England has led to this weird narrative, not from United fans, it must be said, from what I can see, but largely from opposition fans and just very sour people, saying that he's not good. Basically, they're trying to put down his ability. They're saying, oh, he's not as good as Miley, he's not as good as, pick a name that hasn't been called up to the squad, he's not as good as that. It's only because he plays for Manchester United. That's why he's been called up. It's only because it's top six bias. That's what they're saying. Top six bias is the only reason that he's been called up for England. And you sort of go, well, yeah, because no disrespect to these sort of smaller clubs in the Premier League, but it's the fact that he's his age, and it's the fact that he's doing it in the team that he's doing it in. It's the fact that he's in a severely underperforming team, and he's arguably the best player in that underperforming in his first season, and that he only has had, was it like 12 starts in the Premier League or what have you? Yeah, that's why he's been called up, because to do it for Manchester United, plenty of people have tried and not been able to do it. So when you are 18 and you're fresh through the door and you are doing it against, it's not as if it's against the worst teams in the league as well. It's against a team that was top of the league in Liverpool in the FA Cup, gets a standing ovation. He's been running the show. So yes, that's why he's called up. And yes, it's because this is the last international break before the Euro. So you've got to have a look, because he's going to play for the rest of the season and you don't want to leave it too late. So there's a lot of sour grapes on social media. What do you make of that?
Yeah, there is. Hated, adored, never ignored, mate. And that is it, you know. And it's true. I don't think, even with people pushing back, I'm reluctant to sort of discredit other youngsters. I think it's brilliant that youngsters are being given opportunities across the Premier League and that there's some young players really doing well. When I say that, I think of someone like Lewis Miley at Newcastle. He's 17 years old, I think. He has been good. He has. But it's also about, like, stylistically what the player gives and how they play the game. There's no other midfielder, Kobbie Mainoo's age, Lewis Miley included, who's doing what Kobbie's doing, the way he's doing it. There isn't. Lewis Miley's been good. You know, he's all action. He's physical. He can get about the pitch and look after himself. Listen, you know, completely different stature and physique and whole different type of footballer to Kobbie Mainoo. And Lewis Miley is good. So I'm not using this as a stick to say, you know, I don't like using youngsters against each other. No, because they're all young English players and we want them all to do good to get into our team eventually, the England setup. But there is that hated, adored, never ignored. You know, some people are saying, like, sort of Ross Barkley. Why is Ross Barkley not in it then? Or, you know, a Ward Prowse, or, you know, and again, no disrespect, but being in a relegation battle at Luton and still losing every week, let's be honest, they don't win many games. They've fought and become the darlings of the league, Luton. And, you know, they've done well to be that and compete. And Ross Barkley's resurrected his career at the age of, what is he, 30 odd now? Like, yeah, but, you know, he was inactive for about 3 or 4 years, just nowhere. Now he's doing okay at Luton and doing well. He should be in the England squad. And you've got to look at the players that are currently in the England squad. And the midfield is quite light. Jude Bellingham is in his own stratosphere. Declan Rice, nobody can do what he does. So they're the two starters. Conor Gallagher has been running around for Chelsea and, you know, a good servant for Chelsea, done well, but not doing what Kobbie Mainoo's doing, about how calm he is on the ball and the balance that he could give. Jordan Henderson, we know why he's in there. And then it's James Maddison. And again, he's an out-and-out 10, out-and-out provider. He's not doing what Kobbie Mainoo's doing. So in terms of options for Gareth Southgate and the England team and balance, it makes sense that just forget even who he plays for and the big club bias, just even off the profile of what Kobbie's doing and what he could actually bring different to the England team. Nobody else can bring. Not Ward Prowse. It's Ward Prowse, yes, okay, for the assists and the set pieces and stuff. Calvin Phillips is way off it. Lewis Miley, like I said, he's not given the option that Kobbie's given. Neither is what's his face at Luton.
Barkley. But even with those people, so you mentioned like Barkley, you mentioned those people that Ward Prowse. In fairness, and look, I think yesterday was an example. I'm not the biggest Gareth Southgate fan, but he would go, but I've had a look at them, because it's not as if he's not worked with them in the past. He's never worked with Kobbie Mainoo, and it said this is the last time before. You know,
not the biggest Southgate fan, are you?
Not the biggest. I got a call from KG yesterday, after the show, cackling at me.
Well, he did ring me later on, and he said, Owen. He said, I said to Owen, it was sounding a bit agenda.
Yeah,
I have to say, Owen,
I couldn't believe this. By the way, I couldn't believe this yesterday. KG the comedian had the nerve to call me and then start going, I'm not sure about agendas. I was like, Kevin Gary, you taking the piss? First of all, I could barely hear him because he decides to call me when he's standing next to a motorway. So it's just literally just whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And you go, the Southgate thing is funny when it's boring. I'm going, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, KG. I don't know.
Just chaos. Yeah,
and then when I say that, I can just hear it again with the muffled. I can just hear. I'm like, oh, I'm not this. And then he goes, I go, so all right, so what do you think about this bit afterwards? He goes, no, I haven't watched that. He went, I've just watched this. I've just watched like a few minutes of it and decided I had to pause and call you immediately is what I had to do. So KG, if you're watching this, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to you anymore. I've lost for words. I don't know. I was lost for words later on in the day with KG a long time ago.
He rang me later on in the day and said, I did speak to Owen earlier. I did say it sounded kind of, it was a bit like, saying that, even if he, goes in off someone's ass and we win, it did sound a bit, it sounded like you were trying to get to a place whereby even if he did win the Euros, you're then going to move the goalpost to just look at how he did it. Like that matters. So I felt that was very agenda driven. It stunk of somebody who just, you really don't like him. You really don't rate him as a manager and you don't want him to come to Man United, which is fine. But if he achieved England's biggest achievement since 1966, in the way of giving him praise, it felt like you would look for ways to bring it down a notch. That's what it felt like, Owen.
Well, I would say find where I said that because that's not what I said. I said that, of course, I would give him credit if he won the Euros.
Sometimes it's what you don't say.
I said the level of credit would depend on context because we want to avoid any sense of context. Context of winning, and that's what I mean. It's like you're searching for the context with the country's biggest achievement since 66. I'm not searching for anything. Look at the victory at the weekend, right, with Man United. Eric Ten Hag gets credit for winning that match. In general, he gets credit for winning the match. He gets extra credit because how did he win the match? He won it by changing it, going 1v1. He then got extra credit because he played Anthony left back. You've got Bruno at centre back, and those changes help win the game. So he gets extra credit. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
But what? Yeah, you can say you can say it could be even better, but to say it's worse. So what your credit goes down if you just won normal. So if we just beat Newcastle 2-0,
it doesn't go down. It's just
Liverpool 2-0.
You get extra
praise.
He
doesn't get as much credit.
I don't know how that's a novel concept. I don't understand how that's a novel concept.
Because what it sounds like you're saying to me, and I could be wrong, and feel free to clarify me on this. We're
into sounds like. You know what I know who backs me? The comments. The comments back me. The live chat backs me because they were going after you in the comment section below yesterday. And do it again today, guys, because they were saying, Flex, you're a disgrace. You know what you're doing.
So if Eric Ten Hag, by your logic,
you're playing devil's advocate, and I can't believe you're playing devil's advocate for Gareth Southgate of all people. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question? Eric Ten Hag's been under pressure. Eric Ten Hag's been under pressure, right? And let's hope that he stays next year, right? Which again, stays next year, and he doesn't get a new deal. Right, because it's been rocky, but we get to the Champions League because we finished in the top 4 this year, top 5. If he won the Champions League, which is a cup competition, if he won the Champions League, right, final, but he didn't have to get into his managerial bag and all these things that you said gives you extra credit. He just won it. Would you be looking for things that, we bought good players in the summer, so we should do it, or it's about time, or you wouldn't have that narrative. You would be like, wow, Man United haven't won the Champions League since 2008. This is unbelievable. Like, we've won our first major trophy since Sir Alex. So you wouldn't look for, but it was on penalties. You wouldn't look for, Rashford was just amazing that you wouldn't look for those stipulations. So why would you search for the caveats with Southgate is what I'm saying.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not kidding you. I'm being serious. I'm asking a serious question.
What are you doing?
Asking you a serious question. I'd like you to answer.
You're not asking me.
I'm saying if Eric Ten Hag won,
you're being very silly. You're being very silly. Is what you're doing.
All right, fine. fine.
And now Jurgen Flecker is his head because I've gone. Actually, you know what? We did this yesterday. Let's cut through the bullshit. I'm going. I'm not doing it again today. And now Jurgen Fleck's going. Right, that's fine. Move on.
Fine. I'm just saying how it was coming across to me. That was my opinion on it. So
yeah, well. That was only to you.
What was only to me? That was only
coming across.
Well, KG agreed as well.
I know. Well, you're both crazy. That's the problem.
So
you're both.
You're
both as bad as each other.
We're both crazy.
You're both as bad as each other.
Right. Okay. Right.
So
we're crazy now.
If you're aligned with a Kevin Gary school of thought, yeah, I'd say have a look at yourself.
Does anyone in the chat agree that Owen's got an agenda against Gareth Southgate?
Oh yeah, of course I do. Of course I do. But this is the word. This is what's weird with the word agenda, isn't it? Because I don't think he's good. So that's not going to change my opinion on that. Of course, if he won the Euros, I'd give him massive credit for it.
But that's the only sticking point here. I'm not saying that he's good or I'm not saying that. I'm saying
you're missing my point.
This was exclusively about if he won the Euros, what would you do? And your first thing was
it depends on context.
No.
It depends on context.
And I'm saying it doesn't depend on context. If he wins the Euros, it's just straight praise.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, but my point was
straight praise.
But the level of praise can be significantly higher or lower. But that's the case for everyone. But
I'm saying the level of praise shouldn't be lower. No, if he wins the Euro, it's our football would have come home since 1966.
Yeah,
there's no caveats. There's no give him brackets.
And I would give him
if
credit
we won
for
the
that.
Euros on penalties. So you're saying that means you're saying if we would have won them Euros against Italy, you would have been like, I tell you what, shouldn't have even got to extra time. Lucky.
No. I would have said, of course.
What would you have said?
I've got to give him credit for it. I'd go, my concern is that the same thing essentially happened against Croatia, but this time we managed to go a step further. Credit to Gareth Southgate for that. I don't understand how it's. I don't understand how it's a difficult concept.
I like the sound of that.
I don't understand how it's a difficult concept to grab. That depending on how you win something, a manager can get more or less credit for it. Like I mentioned, the Portugal manager is a great example of that. What was he doing on the touchline in their final? Cristiano Ronaldo's running up and down the touchline. Now he gets credit for winning the Euros, obviously, but people raving about how he's a great coach or a great manager. Not really. But if it's like a team that's, I don't know, if it's a manager in the final does a complete tactical, amazing performance, then he gets more credit than the credit he's already got for winning the trophy. Isn't that how it works?
But the narrative would shift. Because he brought on someone. That player's just so good.
Here's one flex, right? Jose Mourinho, when he won the Champions League with Inter Milan, in 2010, he gets credit because he won the Champions League. But he also gets credit because even more credit because he went to the new camp, Barcelona, incredible tactical performance. The way he set up that team and they beat one of the greatest sides ever, he gets more credit because not only do you get credit baseline for winning the Champions League, but then above that, my goodness me, that's what I'm saying.
I'm glad you said that because that's exactly my point. Gareth Southgate would get extra credit because England have won FO since 1966, and if he beat France on the way there,
then he would get more credit. Then he would get more credit.
You said you were looking for things where if it went to extra time or it did this.
I did not say that. I didn't say that.
You said tactics. You said if he did this.
Yeah, because that's his job.
So why can't he just win it with no tactics then?
He can win it with no tactics, and he'll get praise for that.
Why can't it be about just getting over the line? Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
How significant is it to restore something back to their first title in X amount of years or their first title in X amount of years?
Well, look,
that's huge.
Maybe I'm going crazy, but I feel like you're missing the point.
I'm not, because I'm not saying that Southgate's an amazing manager. People are misconstruing that I'm saying that Southgate's great and I'm giving him positive PR, so I want him at Man United. I don't. I've said that. I don't want him to come to Man United.
But
I'm talking about specifically if we won the Euros. That's all this conversation is about, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
it.
And then I agree with you, Southgate's not a great manager. But if he won the Euros, you've got to give him his unequivocal props. And
then my point is, depending on circumstances, the amount of praise you get can go up or down.
And I'm
That's
saying
not,
there's
that's,
no,
and you're saying,
no way
and you're
it can
saying
go
no
down.
blanket.
Can't go
You're
down.
saying blanket. You're saying
Yes.
blanket. It
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yes.
Well,
I'm saying people.
Then I think you're ignoring
I'm
kind of
saying
reality. I think you're then kind of ignoring reality, the reality of the situation with
why?
that take then.
The reality of winning our first thing since 1966. To me, everything goes out the window.
But then that's the same. But that's the same. If you steer it back to Man United, that's the same way that like recently where we've won games and we haven't played very. And you do this, by the way, as well. You've done this.
Yeah.
Where we win games and you go, we didn't play very well today.
But what have we won?
By your school of logic, it should just be blanket. Nope, we won.
If we win the FA Cup, if we win the FA Cup playing shit against City, and we face these 26 shots that everyone hates, but we win, Eric Ten Hag's getting lauded.
Of course he is.
No one's going to say, "Oh, I'll tell you what, though, that doesn't look good for going into next season with the tactics." So I'll tell you what, no one gives a shit.
No, of course he would get praise, but
that's my point.
Depending on how that match plays out, he will get less or more praise because that's how it works.
But from us, I'm talking
if we smash City 5-0 in the final, Eric Ten Hag not only gets praised for winning the FA Cup, but also he gets praised for the absolute smash City. If it's like we get battered, and
would you look for the negatives?
No, because I'm a Man United fan. I wouldn't do that. But people will. People will go.
That's what I'm saying. But you're English.
Yeah, I'm going to celebrate it. I'm English. Of course I am.
Oh, I don't know if you're going to celebrate it. By the way you talk about it, it sounds like you were saying it's not that significant.
Let's move on.
I'm just saying people are missing my point. People are thinking I'm saying that Gareth Southgate's really good and I want him at Man United. That's not what I'm saying. All I said was,
you wish for, Flex.
And all I said was, which to be fair, I actually tweeted this because I was interested to know, because we're getting towards the Euros. I'm like, I wonder what the narrative would be, how people would feel if Gareth Southgate won the Euros. Would it be he should with that team, long time coming, or would it be first since 1966? I just think it's an interesting topic, and this is why I think it's an interesting topic, because he gets bad press, rightly so, because he plays shit football.
He doesn't get bad press. He does not get bad press at all.
Well, no, sorry, not bad press. Sorry, the fans know. The fans.
Yeah, it's the opposite. It's the opposite. The fact he's been linked to the Man United job right now is because he gets so good press, because they're lauding him as a great coach.
Not good press. That's the wrong term. He gets good press because obviously, all right, cool. They want to hype him up and they want him.
He's friends with the press.
Friends with the press. So cool. But fans, we all say, nah, not for me, mate. Not for me. Gareth Southgate's got to come away from this. But in terms of winning the Euros, I just wanted to know what people would think of Gareth Southgate. Would they be like, yeah, so he should win with that team? Like someone said, Di Matteo won the Champions League and was sacked by Chelsea because he wasn't a good coach. Southgate is shit. So that's what I'm saying. So but in international level, it's different with club level because you need him to take the team forward week in, week out. It's completely different to international level. What would it be like if Gareth Southgate won England's first major trophy since 66?
Well, and also this is the point I make.
Genuine question now.
This is the point I make with a lot of, when we talk about this from a Man United point of view as well, is you don't have to be a good side or a good manager to win a cup. You don't, because you can fluke your way to a cup trophy. You don't have to be the best team.
Depending on draw as well.
That's and again, circumstances where you just go, look, I go back to that Portugal one. They finished third in that group.
Yeah.
That's the tournament football is completely different. So, yeah, I mean, if Gareth Southgate won the Euros, of course I would love it, and of course I would give him praise. I don't want him to be Man United manager. I'm not again, depending on what happened through the tournament, maybe I would change my mind and go, tell you what, didn't have faith in your coaching abilities, but this match changed my mind. I'm more than happy to do that. I've seen no evidence.
Yeah. Cool, no problem. By Flex's logic, Di Matteo should be one of Chelsea's best managers ever. He gets no praise for that generally because most people that know something about football know that was the result. That win was the result. That's what I'm talking about, though. It's different at club level when you have to take a team.
It's through context. But it's tournament. That's tournament football. This is my point. Di Matteo won the Champions League. Does that make him a fantastic manager? Does that make him a fantastic coach? Well, not really, because the context was, what did he really have to do with that? Really? Yeah. Was it his tactical masterclass that won that trophy? No, it was just Chelsea's name was on the trophy that year.
Southgate, new deal for England anyway, regardless. Pick him up. Daniel Luciano says, way to be above it, Owen. Hashtag Symbian Flex. Shyam says, Gareth is a curse. By the way, before we kicked Liverpool out the FA Cup, what quadruple were they chasing with Europa? Come on. Yeah, it was poor man's quadruple. Tabara says, Flex teasing me and Minna with those water sips. Big up to everybody observing fasting right now. Wasn't trying to tease you with that, of course not. Banks says Di Matteo won the Champions League and was sacked by Chelsea because he wasn't a good coach. Southgate is not good. Just under 1,000 people watching. Smash a like on the video. We want to get to 250 likes. We're at 146 at the minute, so let's get the likes up. Let's get sharing the video. Let's get over 1,000 people watching live as well. This is interesting. Now, Bruno, what's he been saying? What's he been saying?
Well, Bruno Fernandes, as you mentioned, has been talking to I think
Bruno Fernandes,
like Bruno Fernandes, big up Paulo, has been talking to Portuguese out on a variety of different topics. He spoke about having a meeting with the new owners. He said, "I've already had a meeting with the new owners. They want to meet with the players and have already done so individually, and that's exactly the message I passed on. I want to stay here. I want to be part of a project." So Bruno saying he wants to stay. He also said, though, "I don't expect to be promised something that they can't fulfill from the start. What I've always asked for and what I want from the club is for us to be competitive. This year we haven't been, and so we don't have to hide it." So he's been very honest there. He also said, this was an interesting quote, actually. He said, "I can't ask Rashford and Garnacho, pure wingers, to play inside in the same way that others who perhaps started their careers as midfielders or number 10s and fell to the lines. I can't ask Rashford or Garnacho to do what Bernardo Silva does when he plays as a winger. It's a completely wrong idea." He then carried on by saying, "People sometimes have this idea that all players have to do what others do. No, we have some specific characteristics that define us as players and make us very good at doing what we do. People have to understand that we do what enhances the quality of the player alongside us." He also then spoke about some of his critics, saying, "People say Bruno needs to keep the ball more. But obviously, if I'm playing number 10 and the ball goes between the lines and I spin, and when the ball goes between the lines, it's because the pressure was high. At the moment in which I turn, the pressure is on my back and I can't go back because if I go back, I'll meet the pressure." So what do you make of everything he's saying there, Flex? I suppose you can break it into chunks. First of all, he's saying he wants to stay, wants to be part of the project, which we know. I mean, we always said, didn't we, when we were talking about players that were going to be leaving in the summer, that Bruno was not high on that list unless, you know, a madness happened, but he's sticking around. He signed a contract not that long ago. What do you make of him talking about maybe some of his critics about Bruno not keeping the ball, etc.?
Do you know what? I like it. I saw the I thought, well, do you know, I'm here for the comments. I thought, let me just go into the comments. And it was, people were saying, doesn't mean you should give the ball away like a hot potato. Oh, you know, trash. Odegaard doesn't say this. And it was full of, like, you know, our own fans who just don't rate him. I quite like it because Bruno, I think Bruno knows what he is versus what he isn't, and he doesn't give a shit. That is refreshing, because the best version of Bruno, even though he gives away the ball, which he clearly doesn't like that term. He says, "I know people say Bruno gives away." He's so aware of the things that people say about him.
But he does.
Aware.
But he does.
But he does give the ball away. But he always backs it up by saying, "But my job's to create, and I do create."
He does.
I create. I mean, and he does create. And it's like, if the team was operating in a different way, and he gives his all, and when people say he's not a good captain, we've seen some instances where even Ollie said it, like, Bruno knows sometimes he does too much. He does too much, and it brought exactly, and that is that in those moments that is detrimental to the team. It is. I 100% agree with that. But there's loads of other times where it's really positive for the team, as we've seen when things are going good, and you've got someone that pumped up, encouraging people, running over to people, celebrating with them, fighting with the referees for our cause. You know, give us this. You're supposed to have someone in your corner who does that. That's the captain's job. But I think when the results are poor, and when his performances individually are poor, and he acts the same way, we then don't want that part of Bruno. And that's the thing we have to accept with Bruno, which is quite difficult. And this is why some Man United fans can tolerate that and a lot, and love Bruno and say, listen, get off his back, like, leave him alone. Like, this guy gets it. And a complete opposite side of the fan base are like, this is the problem. We can't move forward with somebody as over emotional as that, someone who plays the game like that. And it's really a balancing act. But what did I think of what he said? It shows he's defensive. It shows that he's bothered by it. He's not bothered in terms of he ain't going to change. Like, he's a strong enough guy. Bruno's not going to say, yeah, I'm just going to tone it down a bit. I need to stop doing that and doing this. And he's never going to do that. But when players come out and, like, tried to justify to that level of detail. You know, the press is that way. If I turn around, I'm going to do that, and it bothers you. It bothers you. I would prefer for him to just play your game, bro. You don't need to justify this, that, and the other. But he's a strong speaker, so I'll get it.
Yeah, he speaks. Whenever he does interviews, look, he's not lost for words by any stretch of the imagination. No. He does give very long, detailed answers. He's very comfortable talking to the press, which I think is why you get those answers in so much detail with him. I think that with him defending himself about, you know, giving the ball away, in those instances, he's going, well, sometimes, you know, I've got to play forward because I can't turn back. And go, that's a lie, Bruno. Yeah, sometimes you can turn back. You can turn back. And like when he did that shot against Luton and we nearly conceded a minute later, that was not because of pressure. That was because you're crazy.
Because you chose to do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what that was. So yes, okay. And that, look, that's the thing with Bruno Fernandes, isn't it? The thing with Bruno Fernandes is that he's a creator and he does everything to create. Sometimes to a massive positive, which is why since he's arrived in the Premier League, he's created more chances than anyone else. And it's also why he gives the ball away, because in certain circumstances where you go, maybe now's not the time to try and create, do the 1% pass, thread the ball through the eye of the needle, he'll try it. I think at this stage in his career, do I expect him to be coached out of him? No, never. No, I don't see it anymore. I know that when Ten Hag first came in and we took Ajax guys on and they were saying, no, he can be trained to be more disciplined and whatever. Tactically, it's difficult with him. I think
he plays the game the way he plays.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag's got the most tactical discipline out of him that he possibly can, which is his current form of Bruno. Now, what was interesting, we don't have this quote, but I did see him also say that he played against Everton last season. And he was like, I was playing in the 6, and I think that's one of my most complete performances I've ever done in my career. And I was...
He had a couple of games last year where he was keeping it.
But I look at it the complete opposite way of Bruno Fernandes, right? The way I look at it with him is the higher up the pitch you can put him, the better. Like, to the point that when he first came in at United, and he had those numbers were crazy, because he was essentially playing as a striker at certain points. He was so close to the centre forward, whoever it would be, like Cavani, whatever. He was so Martial. He's that high up. And then you can take those risks because you're in the sort of final third, you're on the edge of the box, or you're in the box.
And De Bruyne loses the ball all the time.
And sometimes in those areas, you need someone that's not safe. You need someone that's going to take a bit of a risk, because that's what catches defenders out. That's what catches the goalkeeper out, and you score goals. The place you don't need to be taking risks a lot of the time is the middle of the pitch, or like 30 yards out when your team plays a high line and your fullbacks have pressed up. Because when you take that risk there and you lose it, what happens then? Counter-attack. And we are so vulnerable in transition. That's the problem. So that's why I always think he's better high up the pitch. One thing's for certain, though, and there's been a lot of conversation about this since the Liverpool game, is that there's still this, how suitable he is to be the captain for Manchester United. And when you do see him do interviews, and when you do listen to him talk, and you do see performances, he is a captain-like figure. He really is. And you do see that, as much as I'm sure people do get frustrated with the whinging, with the moaning, with the rolling around, and him having a go at teammates when they shouldn't be able to go at, they all do respect him. They all do respect him. They all do appreciate him. And he makes an effort for everyone. I mean, that interview he did with MUTV, where he could have just ended the interview, well, we played very well today, we're really happy to get through, blah, blah, blah. He went through every player. Every player, give him praise. And he is constantly available, maybe when he shouldn't be available. And he does give everyone, he does care and truly care about the club. So I think that, and the weekend, he clearly, again, there's some kind of injury that he's had for a while now. Doesn't really talk about it that much. Plays through it, continues to be available. He ended up at centre back, so he's a captain, he's a leader, and we should back him because of it.
He is, and I think it's just, when you discuss Bruno, you have to sort of, in the negatives, you can forget like the good things that he does or the good bits of his game. Where Bruno is really good, I think, is actually in transition. I think when you turn over the ball quickly and somebody like Marcus Rashford makes a quick run that needs a first-time ball outside of the boot, round the corner, left foot, over the top, through the lines. Like, we've seen him do that so many times. Like, he can find people in transition and keep the play moving. He's not good at picking up the ball and driving with the ball. He's not necessarily press resistant. Like, he's not a technical player that can evade loads of challenges, you know, like what Kobbie's doing and keep the ball. He's not somebody who you want basically setting the tempo of your whole game. Come and collect off the back four, give it back to me, right? Hold it there, round the corner, right? Give it back. I'm going to switch it. Get the patient build up. He's really good that if you get the ball forward quickly and there's runners, he can find them. And then, like you said, as a traditional 10, if he's up the top end of the pitch, he can find that little dinked ball over the top of that little ball just between two defenders that they didn't see and get it to them with both feet. He's got good technique and he's got a good shot on him. You know, he can strike a ball very well. But the things he's not good at is, like we say, when we're trying to have like dominate the game and take our time and build up slowly and find the right pass, he's not always good at that. He's not always good at that. And he's not a powerful runner. He's fit, like he can run for ages, but like people can run past him because he's not powerful. He's not powerful running. You know what I'm saying? He's not fast, but he's fit. So he will give it all. If you have to play 120 plus penalties, he will be there. No problem. Like, do you know what I mean? And he's for the team. So I do think you're right. I think we have to give him praise for those bits because he is always available. He does always want to win. And when we're in some of our better moments, he does shine. But there's far too many times if he doesn't score or assist, he just makes rash decisions on the ball. And you're like,
yeah,
why have you, where you just want to literally press pause on the screen and go, right, come here. Look, why did you just do that?
Yeah, and I think also with him. By the way, we've also got over 1,000 people watching, not even 200 likes at the moment. So click the like button, get the likes up. I do think though what we do have to fix is the over reliance on Bruno. There needs to be an option B, or there needs to be an alternative to him, because it's great that he plays every game, but he shouldn't play every game, really. You know, and if he's not having a good game, because people do, they sometimes don't have a good game, there shouldn't be this reluctance to take him off and replace him with an alternative, or have someone to push him to be better, or have someone that, well, next season we're hopefully going to be in all of these competitions and doing really well. He can't play every game. He shouldn't play every game. We need to have someone else as well. That is where we do need to get away from, I think.
Yeah, no, agreed. K-Flow says, off the current topic, Owen, remember when fans were gassing up the Nice manager earlier in the season? Where are those fans now?
Yeah,
they were like second for a bit, innit? Were they struggling?
They were first for a while, yeah.
Yeah, just goes to show. Banks says, Bruno centre back for one game and now very defensive. My captain. And Harold says, we have not won a game where Bruno hasn't been key. So, you know, a lot of praise for Bruno there. What's this Casemiro injury drama now? What's actually happening here?
Wow, this is an interesting story, Flex. So this comes from reports in Brazil. And they explain really what's happening with Casemiro. So they've said that Casemiro felt pain in his hamstring in a training session on the eve of Manchester United's duel with Liverpool in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. Now, the location was the same one where he suffered a grade 3 injury that took him out of action for nearly 3 months between November of last year and January of this year. The problem was so serious that he almost had to undergo surgery before returning to the pitch. That was the original injury. So once he felt the pain there, obviously there was concern. It continues by saying midfielder reported discomfort in his hamstring to United's doctors and underwent medical tests, as found out by Trivela, the outlet. The club's professionals, Manchester United's medical department, did not identify an injury and considered the player fit to play against Liverpool. But as the pain persisted precisely in an area that has just undergone a long and drawn-out healing process, Casemiro also consulted a doctor in Barcelona who had seen him before. This is where it gets very interesting. The diagnosis is that Casemiro has a small injury at the site of the injury, of the original injury, that could become a much bigger problem if he acted at this time, i.e. if he played. It would be as if the healing, quote, opened again. For this reason, Casemiro was taken not only out of the Brazil squad, but also from the derby with Liverpool. So essentially,
it was weird.
Essentially, the story is he's in training. He goes, there's something wrong with my hamstring. I feel it. I've had this problem before. And they go to medical department. And they go, no, you're fine. Play at the weekend. And he goes, but I'm in pain. Like I can feel there's something from. He goes, right, I'm going to this doctor that's I've worked with before in Barcelona. Go, yeah, you got a problem with your hamstring still. Not a big thing, but if you had played, you'd have been in big trouble. It's a bit like, I don't know if you saw Botman for Newcastle. He's done his ACL, I think. And the reports are with that is that he was actually carrying an injury for a while and then played on it, and then, you know, he's done his knee. And it does raise massive questions. And this is why I pushed back a few weeks ago about the whole Reguilon thing. And Erik ten Hag said this in the press conference, where he was asked, why did you send Reguilon back? Or why did United send Reguilon back? And he went, well, because I was told by this medical department we'd have 2 left backs available. And people sort of push back, oh no, it's Eric's fault, it's Eric's fault, it's Eric's fault. And at the time, I remember saying, like, if you watch the like All or Nothing documentaries, Flex, I remember the Spurs one with Mourinho. There's a game that Son, he's injured for. He's got like a broken hand or something like that. And he's like, I want to play. And obviously Jose's like, I want him to play. And the medical department go, no, you can't play. He's ruled out. The managers are kind of dictated to by these sort of sports scientists and these club doctors and club physios. So if Erik ten Hag's told you're going to have 2 players back in January in that position, you then go, right, maybe we can turn this into getting a striker. Let's get Reguilon off the books and blah, blah, blah. This medical department, there are huge questions about it. Huge questions.
Got to sort this out.
Massive questions, because we're now at the stage where players are going to outside consultation because they don't trust the people that are there. And that is frightening. And if Casemiro had played and had completely torn his hamstring, then he would have been done for even longer. And also, we're talking about getting rid of Casemiro in the summer. We might not even been able to get rid of him. Because you're going to buy someone who's got a torn hamstring? Maybe not. I mean, his legs are going anyway. His legs are completely gone at that point, because you tear your hamstring, you lose an extra couple of yards of pace. It's so bad and so concerning. And that is why I remember when Lucas put this out 30 minutes before kickoff, very nasty stuff. And he was like, people are saying it's because of the training and the training's so bad, blah, 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 that he suffered this injury. You go, well, look at the bigger picture here, Samuel. A guy is holding his hamstring, or is saying, I've got a problem in my hamstring, an injury that he had for 3 months. And he's going, I'm in pain. And they go, nah, you're right to play. Go, but I'm in. There's something wrong. I'm telling you there's something wrong. And he has to go to outside help. That is so worrying, so concerning. And there's loads of different points to pick at it. Obviously, the medical department needs massive overhaul. I know they're doing that anyway, but do it even more. I think obviously there's the question, or talking point rather, about just the sheer demands on football players now is getting completely out of hand. Amount of games that they're playing and the space of time that they're playing these games in. Clearly, I mean, we're still dealing with the fact of last year's World Cup in the winter and the knock-on effect that had. And there wasn't really any break as well, because they played a bunch of tournaments over the summer too.
Yeah, so many people getting injured. It ain't just
exactly. So there's so many different points of conversation here. But I think first and foremost, you can control what you can control, which is the medical department, which is just like, when they get that news back, what must their reaction be? Oh shit.
God. Yeah. We're fucked
crazy.
Up. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's bad. It is bad, because you just want it to be drama free. You know, there's always something that's coming out. You know, we've even got positive stuff going on. You know, Kobbie's doing well, and, you know, the win against Liverpool. And it was weird when we saw that he pulled out of the Brazil squad. You're thinking one of two things. I was thinking, well, maybe it's like he, you know, at this stage, it's friendlies and he has got a niggle, but he'd be all right for the derby. But then I was like, it's literally, the game's tomorrow. He got picked to go to the squad and was fine with that decision. Then literally the day before our game, he's saying, I ain't going. So I was like, well, he's probably not going to be available for Liverpool then. And it made sense. You know, the inside of United, I had a chat with him in the lead up to this. And I tell you what, it's bang on. It's bang on. He said, I can say it now because it's come out. He said, that Casemiro stuff is political. Wait till it comes. Like, this is not straightforward. There's going to be a story to this. And lo and behold, 3 days later, this is what's happened, because apparently United see him as having a minor injury and say he's ready to play. But Casemiro, they think it's weird that he's not even on the bench, because they seem to think it's a minor issue. He can play. But Casemiro's ruled himself out. The players said no.
And I don't blame him. And I don't blame him, because we all know our body's better than anyone else, don't we? And if you're saying, no, I'm in discomfort, I'm in pain, and also it's the same injury that you had that ruled you out for 3 months, and also you're seeing other instances of this medical department just being a shambles, then of course you're not going to trust them. Of course you're not. That is.
Do you think he'll be back after the international break? Obviously, we have no idea what type of injury this is.
Depends what that doctor in Barcelona says. I'd be going to him. You know what I mean? I'd be going to him first.
Couldn't even listen. Yeah.
No,
and it's true. Man United, again, it's a good point you make about if he picks up a bigger injury or becomes injury prone in these last few months. You know, I'm saying it like he's out the door already. He's not. But I'm just saying if we do want to look at selling him, these things matter. These things really, really do matter. So
yeah,
not good. Not good.
No, not good at all. And like I said, because it could have had even more serious ramifications. I mean, like you said, it still might ruffle feathers because look, the Man United medical department and staff might be holding to their belief. They might be like, no, we still think that there's nothing that bad, you know, because when you get into that territory of sort of medical opinion, right, it might just be just that opinion if it's a small thing. But yeah, that is very, very concerning. And it'd be one thing if this was an isolated incident. But the medical department of Manchester United is under so much scrutiny. I mean, I was really surprised, Flex, when Erik ten Hag said that in his press conference when he was asked about Reguilon. You could tell he was seething, and that's a lot for Erik ten Hag.
He's like, I don't know. They told me these two would be back.
He doesn't throw people under the. He doesn't throw people under the bus. He doesn't talk negatively about people. You know, his players, staff members, the owners, or anything. He doesn't. Even people that clearly he had problems with, you know, because even if you go back to the Jadon Sancho stuff, like he didn't completely like cuss him out or say things like he's a disgrace, he's terrible. Just said we based on training performance. Even the Ronaldo stuff, to the very end, he was, I respect him a lot. I really, really respect him.
Yeah.
So for him to come out in that press conference that time and be like, well, I was told, they told me, he kind of was very much saying that's their fault. And I'm sure, and look, how many times he's spoken about injuries just in general in recent weeks as well. He's looking at that medical department as well going, what are you doing? What is going on?
Why do we keep losing so many?
Exactly.
There's one thing that everyone has injuries, which I get that across the whole season this year. It's been a joke. But there's always stuff you can be doing within your own setup to help. Look, things like the not Casemiro one. Things like the Martinez one, fair enough. Like, you know, we've all said that was just unlucky. You know what I mean? It's unlucky. But, you know, some of the other players who have had, you know, muscular things and little niggles, and it's like, are we really dealing with these in the best way?
Even the way that Luke Shaw one was handled recently, that was a massive red flag as well. I know it's because it's Luke Shaw and he always gets injured that people kind of just ignored it to an extent. But this was a guy that came off for a game, and then it was like, no, he's available to play the next game. He plays it, and then he's off again after like 40 minutes. And then like, oh, he's out for the rest of the season. That's a massive red flag. Who cleared him to play?
But that's the thing with that, because you know those injuries like that, it's like when he came off against Villa, it was precautionary, and like you said, he got cleared in the week from Villa to Luton. Sometimes you can get unlucky. Sometimes a player can see, like, you get innocuous sort of. But with Luke Shaw's injury record,
yeah, but
it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right, man.
And you look at it like that. What happened there is almost exactly what could have happened with Casemiro, whereby it's like, oh, he pulls out from the Brazil squad, and they go, but that'd be right. You're available to play. He plays, comes off after 40 minutes, and they go, yeah, he's out for the rest of the season. Why? He's torn his hamstring. You'd be like, what? Who cleared him? Who said that he could play? Who said that that was fine? And don't get me wrong, I know for a fact that as a footballer, when you play and you train as much as you do, you're never 100%. Like, you're not. You're always carrying something. You're always carrying knocks. Like, that's just part of the game. But they should know it's literally their job to be like, oh, we think you're okay to play or you're not okay to play. It's kind of, and also that you do have to have this kind of collaboration with the player as well, don't you? If the player goes, no, honestly, I really don't think I can play. Like my hamstrings really in a lot of pain. Then what do you get into this? Then what do you do? Because if that was you, Flex, this is quite a curious one actually. If this was you, like, what would you do in that instance? If you go, I'm telling honestly, I'm feeling a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and they go, no, you can play at the weekend. What would you be like, knowing that? What?
It depends, and this is where again, sometimes it's two sides to this. Sometimes players need protecting from themselves, because you get players who want to play every game,
regardless. Yeah, exactly.
And will go against the decisions. Then you get players who want to look after themselves, who can feel certain injuries, and they get labelled as, you know, won't play through the pain barrier and stuff, and that's
whatever.
Yeah, sick note. So it's a fine line. It depends on the player. depends how I was as a player. Like, I'd probably be a player like Bruno wants to play every game. Like, probably just mash yourself up. Just, I don't care. Just play. I want to play.
I'd be like that. But if I knew I couldn't.
When you get to the last stages, when you feel it, you say, listen, mate, nah. And you have to rule yourself out. Big up Inside of United, actually. I was just messaging him off camera there, saying we was discussing some of the stuff he was saying to us, saying to me before regarding this Casemiro situation. He says, morning, chaps. Big up to Inside of United. Go check out his page. Really good in terms of not just posting things for clicks and likes and having an energy of wanting to be the man so that everyone follows my thing. There's a lot of things that Inside of United he has, gets information on that he doesn't even post. And I know that for a fact.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And out of trust, when he tells me certain things, I don't just come to the channel and say, guess what? Leaked team news, this and that, because we just don't believe that's the right way of going forward. So big him up. Check out his page on X on Twitter, because very, very reliable and a good friend of the channel. Harold says, I think the med department has not adapted its process to high intensity training and games. We have no choice but to train high because games are high. Of course you have to. It's high. Everything's high intensity. These are highly tuned athletes that train every day. So when the intensity goes up and stuff like that, yes, the sports science lot are out with their laptops and all these things and all these vests that are on and men are this and stuff like that. All of that. There's so much technology now. To the old school fans, I'm old school me. A lot of it is football's going in a different way. And if you speak to someone like Harry Redknapp and people like that, listen, in my day, all of that, it's not right. It's not right.
Well, I remember,
but I think we have to be careful with that, man.
It was in the Rooney interview, I think, on the Overlap, and he said that actually, ironically enough, Jose Mourinho is like one of the only coaches that didn't use the GPS tracker to see how much you run in training. Apparently, he said they only used it if you were coming back from injury, because he wanted to see how much you were running in that case. But he said, but apart from that, he didn't do it. He's like, I know, I can see with my eyes if they're ready.
I just think the good old fashioned eye test is just gone, and I sound old, forgive me. I know they say Gen Z and, the youngsters coming through and technology. I am all for life moving on, technology being part of life. Look, with what we do, this is part of it. But, football's still the same game. I think there's this misconception that football's changed so much. Like the actual game, 11 aside, same size pitch, same size goal, high intensity training, be highly tuned athletes, be fit, get up and down. Like, I get there are things that can help that weren't there 30 years ago. I'm not saying don't go in the ice chambers and, I'm not saying don't do those things. But even to how we analyze the game and how players are tracked. And I personally think it is old school. People might shoot me down. I think there's far too much of it. And we convince ourselves into these field tilt XG things, 0.6, this, that. Whereas you just look at someone, go, he ain't good.
I remember
that is a good player. What happened to that?
I went to it was when Man United played Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and it was when we got knocked out with Robin scored that amazing volley. When the one from the corner that game. And I remember arriving super early that day, and the scuttlebutt around the stadium at that time, and it was on like Sky Sports News as well, that Wayne Rooney was going to start, because like the week before he'd done his foot, and like his foot was like a mess. Everyone was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe Wayne Rooney started." And I remember like they said, "Oh yeah, it's because they like bathing his foot in like horse placenta." Remember all that kind of stuff? They're doing all mad stuff. And to be fair, he came back that day. He didn't do anything. Like he was not ready to play at all. But in that sense, that's when you do take a risk, isn't it? Because you go, Champions League. I think it was quarterfinal. And we were unlucky that day. We went out because we drew 3-3, I think it was. But like you said, that's and I'm sure there are medical professionals that day going, don't play him, don't do it, don't do it. And then I guess you have to weigh up whether you want to take the risk or not, don't you? Of going, it's Champions League, it's quarterfinal.
Yeah, exactly. And players are made out of players are different now, and that is an old school thing. Like the way you manage young players at the academies now, and turning into a young pro and being a young pro and all the way up to senior level, it's completely different. The way you criticize players, the way you analyze players, the way you talk to them, the way you coach them, the way you have to get them to buy into you to even carry out the instructions you want them to, versus how they feel it should be done. It's all different whole different breed, and that does come with a lot of changes. So yeah. Carol J says the big question is, how old is the medical equipment United medical staff are using? Yeah. Well, I don't know. Hopefully it's not too old. Anyway, guys, smash the like on the video. We got just under 300 likes at the end of the show, so we should have done better today. It's not
Flex's fault. It's Flex's fault. He got sidetracked by doing this Gareth Southgate bullshit again. And you should apologize.
I need to swear.
And you should apologize to the community.
Nope. For what?
Well, you put in the chat if you think Flex should apologize for his behavior.
Apologize for what? Apologize for what? Asking you questions on the stream for doing the thing that they say these two always agree. How about they asked for that.
You should apologize. You should apologize to the community,
not
to me. Not to me. You should apologize to the community for having to make them suffer through that. Yeah, that's what you should apologize for.
No, not
a lot of people saying yes. A lot of people saying yes.
Not happening. Later on today, yeah, they can say that. I'm not saying sorry. Also, Javid says no apologies. So how about that?
Yeah, the one person.
I did not back Southgate. This is what I'm saying. If you took that as I was backing Southgate to come to Man United,
you're shameless, Flex. You're shameless, Flex. Everyone in there says
I don't want him to come to Man United.
No. Everyone says in the chat, apologize, Flex. Apart from one person, Flex goes, see, someone said no apology, so I'm not going to do it.
That's right. Sancho didn't have to apologize. Why should I? 6 p.m. tonight. What the devil?
You're the James Sancho of United View.
I am. I'm not apologizing, and I've publicly condemned you as well in front of everyone. Didn't keep it in house. I brought it to the internet.
Yeah.
Yes. Take care, people. We'll see you at 6 p.m. later on today. What the Devil podcast. Myself, Dylan, and DJ. I think should be on the show today.
Yes.
So yeah, good fun. And we'll see you then. Take care. Laters. Peace.